Alright, so here is our Ixalan constructed deck tech for Boros Aggro. Few caveats. Number one is I have never played this deck. I don't have all these cards. So this is kind of what I'd like to play if I had all the cards. The sideboard here, we're going to talk about at the end. It's not really a sideboard. It's other like honorable mention cards I think people could consider putting in, either if they don't have all the cards like me, or just some other ideas. Yeah, that's it. So this is a red-white aggro deck made for Ixalan constructed play. We're running 24 lands, though I think you could probably run 23 depending on your build of this deck. Perhaps 22, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to run 23 lands. We don't have many land choices here in constructed Ixalan, so we're just running, I think it's 12 mountains, 8 plains, and 4 stone quarries. I don't really think unclaimed territory is that good. We got too many different creature types, though. Someone could contend that we run enough dinos that dinos is okay here. Anyways, this is an aggro deck, so I wanted some 1-drops. I had to make some cut somewhere. That's why we're running 3 Imperial Lancers instead of 4. Can we zoom in on this card? Crap, I just lost it. All right, well. I guess is the best way we can zoom in here is bring the card up here. It's a kind of a meh card, but we play a bunch of dinos, so it's basically a 1/1 first striker. And we're also running Swashbuckling, which makes it a 3/3 double strike on turn 3, possibly. So like one dream opening for Imperial Lancer would be Imperial Lancer turn 1, Swashbuckling on it turn 2, Kinjali's Sunwing turn 3. And then I think you're in a pretty good spot against a lot of decks. So that's why I like Lancer. I think you got to play 1-drops if you really want to be aggro in this format. I don't think you can get away with just running 2-drops. That's also why we're running Legion's Landing. Gives you a little bit of a late game here. You definitely play enough creatures that this thing flips pretty fast. Like a turn 4 flip, turn 5 flip. Normally you just want to be playing your hand out though instead of making zombies. But a 1/1 lifelink zombie with a Swashbuckling is not so bad. It's a 3/3 zombie. The problem with the 3/3 zombie and the Imperial Lancer is that even with Swashbuckling, its toughness is only 3. Which means it's lightning strikeable. So that's a little bit sketchy. There's also a lot more removal pretty much starting yesterday than there used to be in this format. So I used to really like the enchantments, the creature auras or whatever. But perhaps they've lost some potency now that everybody has a lot more removal. All right, on to the good stuff, the 2-drops. Full 4 of Untitled Vanguard. This guy is money. Money. 3 damage. If you put Swashbuckling, of course, he's doing 5 damage. Very tough to kill, and normally we're not worried about our life total so much because the opponent's worried about their life total because we're aggro. So regenerating him a few times, and by regenerate I mean indestructible, is pretty good. He can swing into drovers. He can swing into Odapek Huntmaster. He can swing into pretty much any other 2-drop and most 3-drops. This card's just good, man. It is a good aggro card. Next is 4 lightning strikes. Herp derp, of course, 4 lightning strikes. Don't need to say anything about that, really. Next is Sky Terror. Seems like a decent 2-drop. 2/2 Flying Menace. Hard to block. That's what we're trying to do in an aggro deck. Once again, Swashbuckler here does get it over lightning strike range, so then you got a 4/4 Flying Menace, and that is pretty hard to deal with. If it can survive long enough, and it doesn't need to survive that long, just like about 3 turns before they're dead. And then 3 Swashbuckling. I thought 4 was too much. 3 is pretty good. I rarely ever use it for haste. Normally it's just for extra damage. I don't know. I still think it's an include. You could probably run this deck without Swashbuckling. It would definitely make the Imperial Lancers a lot less powerful. So you might want to cut those, and then in that case you might just want to be starting at 2-drops really instead of 1-drops. Maybe a few Legions Landing. I think it's pretty good. I don't like Rigging Runner that much either. So I don't know if that's a better... I like Imperial Lancer better than Rigging Runner. So I guess Rigging Runner could be a 2/2. I don't know. I kind of still have to test out that. Kinjali's Sunwing. This card is great. This card is great. It's Thalia in the air. A little weaker, but it's in the air, which is super nice. And yeah, everything comes in tapped. Charging monster swords come in tapped. Any haste creature comes in tap. Of course. Of course no one's going to play out 38 turns. How many people have you beat? I didn't play out the whole game. Once I figured out what was going on, I quit. And actually, I didn't figure out what was going on until the next day. Well, I should have figured it out anyway. The 3-drops are where this deck kind of shines. So we got 4 Sunwings and 4 Ferostodons. These guys win the game. And that's basically the top of our... Well, no, that's not true. But these guys are great. Sunwing taps everything down. You get to keep attacking an extra turn with your Vanguard or your Imperial Lancer. It's also evasive. It flies, so it gets to keep attacking. Generally, pirates are smaller than a 2/3. There's a lot of 1/2 pirates and 2/2 pirates. There's some 2/3 pirates, flyers. And Ferostodon is just great. It taxes them for life. It's got menace. Players can't gain life. That's the card I needed against your deck. Against that deck. He must have killed it already. I must have not noticed him, but yeah, Rampaging Ferostodon will tear that deck to shreds. So just a great card. I do not have enough of these, but I think this is an easy 4 include in this deck. And then the top of the curve is these 5 Charging Monster Swords. It seems like a good way to win the game. Settling the wreckage on Gishath is good. Getting hit by Gishath is bad. So this is just the top end. I think it's the right top end. It's not a glory bringer, but it's as close as we're going to get. And the trample's nice. Like, it's at that point, it's about pushing through the last bit of damage generally, or setting you up for a lightning strike win. And the 4-drop slot is kind of wide open. I think 1 or 2 settles would be good. I only have 1, that's why there's 1 in here. You can really catch someone by surprise, like if you're just in a race-off with another aggro deck and you just wipe them out. I think that's a win. 2 Ixalans binding. They're pretty good. They deal with big stuff that's slowing down your blockers, or especially an aerial problem for your Sky Terrors and Kinjali Sunwings to get through. Captivating Crew, I like this card a lot. But it does have 3 toughness, which means it dies to a lightning strike. If this was a 3/4, I think it would be much better. But Captivating Crew is another great way to push stuff through at the end. You can top deck it with 8 lands and then just steal the creature right away. Super nice piece of late game tech here. But probably only 1. I have 2. I don't know. It's really about curving out to 3 and then hitting with the Monster Soar. Turn 4, you could be lightning striking or binding or playing a couple of creatures or something like that. Yeah, I agree. Settle's good in a lot of places. It's a little scary when you're playing an aggro deck like this and you give them like 3 lands and then they can dump a couple of huge dinosaurs. But hopefully the evasion of the Ferocidon and the Flyers is enough. So let's look at the sideboard here. It's kind of the most interesting part. Well, maybe not, but there's a lot of shout-outs here that, depending on what you guys have or what you like playing. Shout-out number 1 goes to Burning Sun's Avatar. It's a big boy, but it can finish a game. Sadly, it's a ground creature. I don't know. I'm not running. I got a lot of these. I just didn't want my curve to be that high. But I think it's possible this would be good, especially if you run a slower version without 1-drops. And then maybe curve out to 6 instead of 5. It's worth thinking about. Worth trying. Number 2, Fiery Cannonade. Yo, what's up, Mistress? Welcome back. This deck is for Ixalan Constructed, which you can play in Arena. But of course, this deck is not specifically for anything covered by an NDA. This deck is for Ixalan Constructed. Fiery Cannonade. It's just a great card sometimes. I think it's a sideboard card generally. The only deck I think Fiery Cannonade is not a sideboard card is an Enraged Dino deck. Then I think you can main deck it. But sadly, a lot of creatures you want to deal 2 damage to are pirates. So it's really just great. Super great against Vamps. Pretty good against Merfolk, if you can catch him early enough. What up, Jester? Yeah! Welcome to the stream. Good to see you, man. We are finishing up this deck tech. I already went through the main deck. And I'm just giving out a lot of options here for includes. The next one is Fire Cannon Blast. Also probably a sideboard card. Just because it only targets creatures instead of players. But, I mean, this is a very creature-heavy format, so it's like this card will always have a use. And Raid can be triggered pretty easily, so 6 damage is pretty good at clearing out a big mama. Like, if they play something big on turn 4 or turn 5. What's wrong with Sky Terror? They're great. Especially with Swashbuckling. I don't know. The 3-drop slot is pretty heavily contested. I don't think you can change 4 Ferocidons and 4 Sunwings. But maybe this is good. Once again, I haven't fully played this deck. I was trying to play it as much as I could yesterday, but there's a lot of things that I have not worked out. What's the other one I'm thinking of? I didn't include it in my sideboard, but I should have. What's the red that does 3 damage to any target and you can get back for 5 if you, with Raid? I had it in my head a second ago. Repeating Barrage. That's what it is, right? This is not strictly better than Fire Cannon Blast, but it's definitely a good way to finish the game. Sure Strike and Thrash of Raptors. Yeah, like there's definitely something to be said for just playing mono red instead of red white. The main reason we're playing red white is for the Kinjali's Sunwing. But that also gives us the Adanto Vanguard and the Sky Terrors, as well as Settle and Ixalan's Binding. Like you could go a little more dino heavy here. Another card I don't have in the sideboard is Bonded Horncrest, which is I see a lot of people enjoying. And we don't have a lot of 4-drops, so it does fill out that 4-drop slot pretty well. But that can be quite a beating. Repeating Barrage seems pretty good. It's just kind of like more lightning strikes, but they're expensive and a little hard to deal with. I'm trying to keep this deck pretty low to the ground. Like, I think if I wanted to play Thrash of Raptors, I'd just play mono red. And maybe you could play Tillinali's Knight. But then I think you'd have to play like Nest Robbers too. I don't know. You miss out on a lot. But the 5/3 trample is pretty nice. They trample, right? Thrasher Raptors. Oh, I have it down here. We'll get to it. All right, moving on. How do you spell this? Hurrah. For the white-red version, I think the Warrior Poet is a little better than the Dinosaur Knight. I don't have any of these, so these are pretty untested. I don't really like Nest Robber, but I think if you're playing mono red, you should probably play it. Then you'd play Rigging Runner and Nest Robber instead of like Imperial Lancer and Adanto Vanguard. A 2/1 for 2 is pretty garbage, even with haste. But it does give you all those dinosaur synergies on turn 2, which is pretty nice. But I'd much rather play Sky Terror than Nest Robber any day of the week. if that's, or Adanto's Vanguard. Warrior Poet seems good. I'd maybe put one at my top end if I had one. Dinosaur Knight I know nothing about. I have not messed with this card at all. Once again, if you went with a more dino-centric deck, I think this is probably pretty good. For example, putting 2+1/+1 counters on a Sky Terror or Sunwing seems pretty good. Also being able to just gives you more removal, but it's a 6-drop. And if you get to turn 6, you're probably in trouble. Like when I was at turn 6, it was basically I was trying to top deck Lightning Strikes for the win or something. I mean, do you think Nest Robber is better than Sky Terror? I don't think so. I don't think it's better than Adanto's Vanguard at all either. Even though they're not hasty. So yeah, I don't know about the Planeswalkers. They're kind of slow. Seems like a sideboard kind of thing for certain matchups. Imperial Aerosaur I gave a shout out to. It can do some crazy things. This is more a shout out for people who don't have all these cards and are looking to fill some slots. 3/3 flyer, great. It also works super well with Imperial Lancer. So it activates Imperial Lancer and you can give it +1 and +1/+1 and flying. So you could hit in for 4 with Imperial Lancer just by playing Aerosaur alone. Also can do the same thing for a Adanto Vanguard. It can throw that up in the air for a second. It could throw a 1/1 lifelink vampire token in the air, make it a 2/2. I think it's a pretty good filler card if you don't have some of these other cards. And definitely worth playing. I think I might actually be playing one in my deck right now because I do not have all these cards. And I've not been disappointed. Next. I had a hard time learning how to spell this last night. Competes with Steadfast Armasaur. Yeah, this card. Oh, in the 4-drop slot. Yeah, I think it's way better, but in this deck. But perhaps in general. I mean, clearly Steadfast Armasaur you could try to build a deck around that's different. Like I played a weird life gain deck that had Verdant Sun's... Is it Avatar? Whatever that dinosaur that gains life, and he's playing Looming Altosaurs. Just gaining life all in my face. No, that would be a good deck for Steadfast Armasaur. Odapek, I think you got to play more dinos. I think if you're playing Thrash of Raptors and Bonded Hordencrest, I mean, I think then Odapek is great. I would play this in the red deck wins dinosaur version. Seems like a great 2-drop. Gives haste. I think everybody knows about this card. We've all played enough dinos or seen enough dinos to know what this card can be pretty impactful. So for a mono red deck, I would play that. But for this deck, because we're running Lancers and Vanguards, I guess that's it. I still don't think we get enough value off of it. Also, it's a 2-drop slot, which is 2-drops are pretty full here. I think you have to be committed to dinos, fully committed to play this card. Next shout out, just because I packed one of these the other day. I just think this card is the jankiest. And I have big love in my heart for jank. So whenever I get to start streaming this game, you are going to see some Rowdy Crew decks. I don't know what they're going to do. Probably lose. But we're going to play this card. I've played it twice now, I think. And neither time have I hit off of it. Yeah, I think Charging Monstersaur is. Once again, right now the only thing available in Arena, as you've seen on the streams, which is what I'm talking about, what we've seen on the streams, is best of one matches. And so I think Monstersaur is better in the best of one matches. If you get to play, you're pretty good to win. You get the draw. It's still a great play on the draw. Also works well with Imperial Aerosaur. You ever tried that? You ever pick up your Monstersaur and make it a 6/6 attacker, flying attacker? That works. 6/6 trample flyer. Flample? Flample hype?
Oh boy!
Yeah, I really like that Imperial Aerosaur as a filler card. Rowdy Crew, yeah, I just gave this a shout out just to give it a shout out because I think it's hilarious. But you probably shouldn't play it unless you really need to fill the deck. Like, let's look at it again because I do like this card. It's a Trampler. Best case scenario is you draw a card and have a 5/5 Trampler on turn 4. That all seems pretty good. Worst case scenario, you have a 3/3 Trampler for 4. That's pretty bad. Like, that just chumps with the Regisaur Alpha spawn. Or trades, not chumps. I don't know. If for some reason you want to put random cards in your graveyard, though, we could be talking again. And that's probably how I'll be trying to use Rowdy Crew. We can put in a Grim Captain's Call. Maybe this card makes the cut in a like a red-blue Pirates or a black-red Pirates deck. Just because you might need them. But I don't know. This card is just ridiculous. What's next? We talked about this card a lot. You guys like this card better than Bonded Horncrest? I don't know. I mean, if you're playing Dinos, it doesn't matter. Bonded Horncrest doesn't have Trample, but does have 5 Toughness. The problem is this is subject to Lightning Strike. So I think I like Bonded Horncrest better. But if you're going full Dino, you could probably play both. Let's look at Bonded Horncrest here. 5/5 can't attack or block alone. That's not a big issue, especially with things like Sky Terror. Menace Flyers can attack for a pretty decent amount of time. Thrash is okay. I don't love it. It's okay. That's all I'll say about Thrash. Treasure Map. Seems okay. Maybe a sideboard card. Maybe you could stick a few in. Like normally I would think treasure maps don't belong in aggro decks. Thresher Raptors with Sure Strike. Yeah, we should give a shout out to Sure Strike. That is a very powerful card in this format right now. I would think Treasure Map is not an aggro card, but because of Ben Stark's big red deck where he put this in Ramonep red, he's a pro. He knows what he's doing, so perhaps Treasure Map could get in here. I mean, the scry's nice. The extra cards are nice. The other card I consider like this is this one. This is a pretty fun top deck. I mean, not top deck, but top of the curve. It's not quite Charging Mosasaur top of curve, but it's okay. It fills the 4-drop slot. And by the time you get it, you should be able to play almost anything. It's a lot of card advantage against more controller decks. I wasn't playing it last night, but I think I'm going to sneak one in. I think it's better than Legion's Landing, for example, in the long run. Back when I was playing this card, I was able to flip it pretty frequently. And the flip ability is great. I don't know what that land is called anymore. But it's like you tap 3 lands and the cannons, and you do 3 damage to anything. 2 or 3 damage to anything. I don't think MtG Bot is going to tell me either. Maybe just Vance. No, it's not telling me. Anyway, I don't know. This card I believe has a lot of potential. It seems kind of slow, but for our deck, where we have like no 4-drops, or only reactive 4-drops, then it seems pretty good. Like if we want to stay aggressive. I know, I like this car a lot. I'm probably going to try it today, later. All right, moving on. Are we done with our shoutouts? That was it. That was the last one. So that's the deck, folks. It'll get you some wins. The landscape of certain Ixalan constructors metas is changing a lot right now. I kind of had this deck in mind before there was so much removal in the set, or before people had so much removal. My number one warning for this deck would be watch out for Settle the Wreckage. My number one warning for pretty much any deck, watch out for Settle the Wreckage. That card is around a lot now. It wasn't around that much, and now it's around a lot. Because of people like Ninja here who think it's really good, and people like me who are putting it in their aggro decks. So watch out for that card. If they got 4 mana untapped with 2 whites, don't attack with everything. That's my advice. Keep attacking, but don't attack with everything. I easily could have won 1 or 2 games had I been a little more aware of Settle the Wreckage. But I was just turn them all sideways, send them in, regardless of what the opponent has up. So, yeah, that's it. What do you guys think? Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3? I mean, we have to see how the meta shakes out, but I think this deck is very fast and very strong. It has some decent sideboard options for getting into a sideboard match. It's playing some great cards. I like it. I think it's up there. It's got a lot of, it's got a good amount of creatures. Let's see what these stats show down here. There's our curve. 15 2-drops, 5 1-drops, 8 3-drops, 4 and 4. There's the list. Once again, remember, this is not an actual sideboard. These were just shoutouts for includes. I guess that's all the info we get. Look at that split. Perfect 20-20 split. Didn't even plan it. We're running 24 creatures. That's a good amount of creatures. My point was with a lot of creatures is that you get around Kite Sail Freebooter shenanigans. Like if Kite Sail Freebooter just whiffs, then it's just a 1/2 flyer for 2, which is pretty garbage, which you can eat with pretty much any of your creatures. 4 Sunwing, 4 Ferocidons are tier 1. Yeah. I mean, I feel like Jeskai, a Jeskai version of this deck might be okay. But I just don't think the lands are there for us right now. Playing 3 colors is pretty rough in aggro land. And this mana works out pretty well. It's just the 4 Stone Quarries. Though I wish we had an equivalent land like Drowned Catacomb for white-red, but we do not. So I think if you want to go aggro, I think 2 colors is the way to go. Anyway, this is my first deck tech for Ixalan Constructed. I think the next one is going to be Dimir Pirates. That's the deck I have the most experience with. We'll do that. I don't know. We might do it tomorrow if I can get it up and posted by then. If not, I don't know. You can look for it in my stream old vids or highlights or on my YouTube. I might be posting some things straight to YouTube this week. We'll see how that works out. And I think we're just going to wrap up the stream here.